This is number 11 in a series of videos about Thornbury FM, a small community radio station in Thornbury, South Gloucestershire, in the southwest of England. Thornbury FM broadcast for 28 days, twice a year, under a short-term restricted service licence, SRSL. It started transmitting on 87.7 FM with simultaneous webcasting in the autumn of 2005, and its final broadcast under that name was its 9th in autumn 2009. This time I want to examine the station's attitude towards the participation of youth organisations.
Teacher, come and teach me, give me education. Let me teach another person. Oh, teacher, come and teach me, give me education. Let me teach another person.
If you have seen the 10th video in this series, then you will know that Thornbury FM prided itself on its youth involvement. The station started broadcasting from the outset with a heavy emphasis on young people's participation. A lot of the youth involvement by recognised organisations came from local schools. For example, the very first broadcast included programmes featuring Crossways Infants, Minerbrook Primary, Gilliderstool Primary, Oldbury Primary, St Mary's Primary and Castle Secondary Schools. Quite a significant contribution. According to its constitution, Thornbury FM was committed to providing local people with knowledge, understanding and support so that they could enhance community life through the medium of community radio. The station had some duty to promote the local voluntary sector. It was a voluntary organisation itself, after all. Personally, I think that the station should have focused more on involvement by voluntary youth groups rather than by schools. Education to the age of 16 is compulsory after all, and that upper age limit is set to rise. Children are at school because they have to be there. It's the law. What's more, as you will see in the next video in the series, community radio stations are supposed to be editorially independent of government institutions in determining their programme policy. And this was not demonstrated in practice with such a heavy emphasis on schools, which are part of South Gloucestershire Council's education service. On the other hand, children are in a youth group because they choose to be there. So would it not have been better to have had children involved in the station through groups of their own choice? And wouldn't that have been part of showing the extensive community participation which makes Thornbury an interesting place in which to live? There are several youth groups in the area, but surely one voluntary sector youth organisation that will spring to most people's minds is the Scouts, and there was a Scout group that broadcast several times on Thornbury FM. Do you think it might have been First Thornbury Scouts? They claim to be the largest group in the district. They are based at Sinclair Hall, a secular scout hut in Park Road, but it wasn't them. So then, do you think it might have been the Second Thornbury Scouts, based at Christ the King, the Roman Catholic Church in Castle Street? Well, it wasn't them either. So you probably think that it was the Third Thornbury Scouts, who meet at Thornbury Methodist Church Hall in Castle Court, right? Well no, you'd be wrong again actually. So, since we have run out of Thornbury-based scout groups, I think, then we are talking about outside of town.
We're riding along on the crest of the wave and the sun is in the sky. All our eyes on the distant horizon, look out for passers-by.
2nd Alveston Scout Group is known to have broadcast on 4 of Thornbury FM's 9 transmissions. Spring 2006, Autumn 2006, Spring 2007, and Spring 2008. They meet at Alveston Youth Centre in Greenhill, Alveston, a village 1.5 miles from Thornbury, though within the South Gloucestershire Council ward of Thornbury South and Alveston, and within the station's reception area. I strongly suspect a connection between the Let Us Entertain You team, shown in video 10 of this series, and the 2nd Alveston Scouts. Such a connection would be extra grounds for my concerns about the running of the community radio station. Meanwhile, there are also Guides and Brownies in Thornbury. Guides claim to be the biggest female organisation in the world, with 10 million members worldwide. Yet Thornbury's Guides and Brownies were not represented on Thornbury FM's programmes. Well, not until much more recently anyway.
Who is that boy posing with my girl? Girl's guy, I see. Who is that boy posing with my girl? Girl's guy.
5th Thornbury Guides meet at Christ the King Church Hall, as do 2 brownie packs, the 5th and 6th Thornbury Brownies. There are also brownies at the Methodist Church Hall and at the United Reformed Church. Now, I am not pro-Scouts, nor do I have any form of affinity with any youth group. However, as an impartial observer, I can't help wondering why the Scouts and Guides in the Thornbury area couldn't have had a 1 hour or 2 hour weekly slot and have shared it in strict rotations.
People might say my life is in a rut. Quite happy what I got. People might say that I should strive for more, but I'm so happy I can see that something's happening here today. A show of strength with your boys brigade.
This could also have applied to other uniformed youth organisations, such as Thornbury Sea Cadets, the Thornbury Squadron of the Air Training Corps, and the Thornbury Detachment of the Army Cadet Force. Before anyone chips in, I am aware that there was some participation, for example, on the 26th of November 2006, when a Sea Cadet took part in a programme on the station, or when a Crossways schoolboy talked about his involvement with the first Thornbury Cub Scouts on the 18th of May 2008.
I've been a Cub Scout at 1st Thornbury Mohawks for 1.5 years, and before that I was a Beaver Scout for 2 years. Cubs is for 8 to 10.5-year-olds. We meet every week at my Scout hut, Sinclair Hall, for 1.5 hours of fun-packed fun. I'm really glad that I'm a member of the Cubs. We have to learn to work together and also get involved in different events in the community. There are 3 Cub packs in Thornbury on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday.
But I really do think that Thornbury FM's youth broadcasting should have supported the voluntary sector rather than schools, which have an interest in promoting themselves in an era of parental choice, fluctuating school roles, and school funding formulae based partly on pupil numbers. The promotion of the voluntary sector should be done impartially, and I don't see how this was achieved in the station's 9 broadcasts. In fact, only one Scout group ever presented a programme on the station during the first 7 broadcasts. It should also be stated that participation by youth groups in Thornbury FM has to mean programme planning, production and presentation. All community groups should own their own programmes and not merely be guests on someone else's. There were some developments in the spring 2009 broadcast for the much vaunted Are You Listening project, with guides making a debut, a new scout group appearing, the Sea Cadets having a programme, and lots of individual participation. So it was good news, locally based youth organisations, but also bad news, programmes from individuals with names like Tom and Jack. The new scout group was in Fowlfield, over 4 miles from Thornbury, so even further than Alveston. There was also significant schools involvement again. As for the individuals presenting programmes, some questions that need answering include: how were they chosen? And how many go to the Anglican and Baptist churches? If you have seen video 10 in this series, then you will understand my concerns here. When the programming of the whole Are You Listening project is analysed, you will see how poorly the local youth organisations were served. Thornbury FM should have ceased pandering to schools and stopped rewarding favourite individuals. The station had plenty of time to adopt a reasonable stance within the Thornbury community and act as a facilitator, enabling the production and presentation of programming by genuine Thornbury-based voluntary youth organisations. But to achieve that, it needed a youth coordinator free from influences, religious and political, so not Holy Helen Harrison, nor Dan Budd and Jane Leo. Religious influence was covered in videos 9 to 11 of this series. Political influence comes next.
Let's turn on the radio. Maybe there's something good on there.
Whoa, this sounds cool.
That was the best radio show ever.
God, yeah, we gotta tune in more often.
What's the station called again?
I think it was 87.7 Thornbury FM.
Radio for the whole community.